Dear friends, I welcome you on my YouTube channel, and in today's video I invite you to draw and paint with me seashells. And this is a simple but yet interesting exercise to create some seashells in watercolors. If you're for the first time here on my YouTube channel, my name is Ala, I'm a sketch illustrator and watercolorist, and from 2020 I'm an art teacher too. For this marvelous work in watercolors of these seashells, you will need a watercolor paper A6 size. If you want, you can take any bigger size. You don't have to paint exactly as I do. You can take any paper that is bigger. You will need a pencil and an eraser. As well, you will need some watercolors. I will be using my 36 pens watercolors White Nights, and I will be using paintbrush from Da Vinci Nova Synthetics number 4. If you have any other paintbrush, it will work as well, but I advise if your size of the paper is small enough, then the size of the paintbrush as well have to be small. We will also need water and some tissues. So let's jump in. I start with a light pencil drawing, and why I say that it is light, mainly because we don't press too much on the paper, because we don't need to see and that the seashells is not so visible once we draw it, because later on we will apply watercolors and we don't need that this pencil drawing to pop up later. And I create the seashell form, and then I go from, because the seashell I will paint from outside and from inside part, and I decide to go from both parts because on the interior side the seashell is lighter in color and on the outside it is darker and cooler. As well, what I do, I draw some other lines that will guide me throughout the painting in watercolors. As well, if you feel like your pencil drawing is pressing too much on the paper, just take another pencil that it is lighter in color. For example, here I use an HB by Kohinoor. So I decided to draw as well some mussels inside of the seashell, because I think that it will create an interesting contrast in colors between the orange color of the mussels and the cool blue color of the seashell. And I create the form. The mussel has a specific form. It is not just one simple form, an oval form, but it has some different sizes, some different forms as well, and it is just nice to draw it as well. I will start with mussels, and the base color I will be using yellow. Look at whatever yellow you have. The only thing that I advise that this yellow that you apply, it is warm enough. For example, yellow cadmium is a cool color, and for mussels we need some warmer colors. On the other hand, pay attention as well that I add very few color and a lot of water, and only once I applied the base color and meanwhile it is still wet, I add some more intensity yellow color, and as well I add some orange color. Pay attention to the orange color that you have, because pay attention that it is not so strong and it is not going into reddish color. Pay attention that it should stay more yellowish. And while we are working with this intensity of color, the paper it is still wet, and this technique it is called wet on wet technique. This wet on wet technique helps us a lot to create these beautiful transitions and do not have these strong lines in between the layers. Now I prepare the color for the seashell. I will proceed with the seashell from outside, because in the inside I need that the mussel to stay to dry a little bit. If you want to, you can dry it with a hair dryer, and in this way to proceed with the seashell inside. I proceed instead, because I want that the colors to dry on their own, so I proceed with the base color on the seashell of outside the color. I took indanthrine blue color and a little bit of indigo into it. Look what you have, what a blue color you have on your palette, and mix it in that way that you will enjoy it more. I advise here to take a cool blue color, because on the seashell inside we have more warm color, more warm blue color. Instead, on the outside part of the seashell we have very cool colors always. And to add more warmness to the color for the inside part of the shell, I take some ruby color and mix it with some ultramarine, but later on I decide to mix it with indigo because I need a certain purple color. Look how you mix the colors. You can take actually purple color from your palette, but I'm sure that that purple that you will have will be strong enough. Pay attention to not have very evident colors, and as well pay attention that those do not have too much color and less water. It is very important that when we apply the base colors, we apply those with a lot of water. The main reason that we apply the colors on the base color with a lot of water is because we have to maintain the transparency of the watercolors and of our work. If we start to work with from the dark color straight away, what can happen is that if we do some mistakes, it will be the more difficult to undo it, and it will be also more difficult to create these beautiful transitions from one color to another. Meanwhile, the paper it is still wet, I go with darker blue color, and I took more indigo color and add even some purple color because I added to the mix of with red color, and I add it on the seashell. I add stronger colors, and on the way that the colors are starting to dry, the paper starts to dry, I add more and more intensity because in wet on wet technique, usually what happens is that the colors are stronger at the beginning once we apply those on the paper, but once the paper dries, those becomes slightly lighter. This is the reason that while the paper starts to dry, we add more and more intensity of the colors. Once I like the intensity of the second layer, meanwhile the paper it is still wet, I add more intensity. I took straight away indigo from my palette and add the smaller details, even though later on I will add more details once the paper will dry. But meanwhile it is still wet, I add the details that I want to go stronger, but as well that I want to have a beautiful transition from a lighter color to a darker color. On the other hand, maybe you have already noticed that the seashell, it is cooler at the superior part of it, and it is lighter and warmer at this side where I was painting right now, below the mussel. For the outside part of the seashell, I add very strong color. I take more indigo color because my second layer will be with a very strong color. What I will do, I will paint basically everything on this seashell, but I will leave some lighter details. And usually when we watch the seashells on the outside part, we can clearly see some details in white. I decided not to go with the white paper and to go more with a lighter blue because I just enjoy more having this transition more lighter, let's say, not so strong. And I go with the lines by creating these details on the seashells and going through the size of the seashell with this strong color with the indigo. I finish our second layer, and you can see that I left a lot of space in lighter color. I just find it very interesting to do, and wherever it is needed, meanwhile it is still wet, I add a stronger indigo color on my paper. And now I proceed with our third layer, where I already add some details and I intensify the color on the seashell outside. But first, because the seashell that we have with the outside part we have painted and it is still wet, I add the details on the left side seashell. I add the outline details with this Payne's gray color. You can take any black color if you wish, but I really advise you here to add a blue color, but that it is strong enough and that it goes almost into black color. You can even take some indigo color, but with less water. At this point, at this third layer, it is important to go with less water and more color. The same I will do on the seashell that we paint now. The only thing is that I will go once again all over the seashell and I will paint this Payne gray color. You will ask why I have added the indigo color first before adding this Payne's gray color. It is very simple, because usually when we work with different layers with glazing technique, the layers that stay below, those are usually mixing into the colors with the colors that we apply over it. And it is more interesting to watch these kind of works where have been applied several layers with different colors, because those are catching more the attention of the viewer. If we apply only one color, there are no transitions between color, and you see only paper and that one color. Obviously, if you are sketching really quick, you can do it as well. I also prepared an art tutorial in my next course with the seashells. The next course will be more about painting fishes, but I also have an art tutorial with different size and forms of these seashells to paint, and those are a little bit more advanced level. So if you want, you can join later on this course with the seashells and fishes that I will be sharing soon on my YouTube channel. But if you feel that you still want to learn something new, you can follow along with other videos of mine, because on the next video I will be painting prawns and I will also paint an illustration with fishes. This will help you to get used with watercolors and with how to paint fishes and different seashells. Proceeding next with this seashell, you can see that I add even more Payne's gray color onto the left, and I will add it so onto the right part of the seashell. And this way I create more intensity on it. And last but not least, I go back to the mussels and I add more orange color. Because my paintbrush had a little bit of Payne's gray, you can see that the orange color that I use, it is slightly darker and cooler. With this, I add some darker details to recreate some shadows. But I also take some water to create the transition smoothly from a darker to the lighter color. It is very simple. I take plain water, I remove the excess of water from my paintbrush and I apply it, and that's it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed drawing and painting with me these seashells. If you still have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I will be super happy to answer your questions. As well, I invite you to follow along my Instagram, and if you want, you can share there your works and tag me. In this way, I will share your work on my stories. I also invite you to subscribe to my channel, because in the next video I will share with you another art tutorial where we will be drawing and painting prawns in watercolors. Another super interesting exercise to do, and I'm sure that you will enjoy it a lot as well. If you're for the first time here on my YouTube channel, I also invite you to watch others videos of mine where I share different art tutorials, different tips and tricks on how to initiate in watercolors. Thank you for watching, and till the next time, bye!